In regards to the You're in My Space article, the main thing that I drew from that is different cultures expect different, I guess, respect or just interactions when they're talking to strangers or even people they're close in relationships to. One phenomenon that I thought was interesting was in warmer countries, participants tended to be happier with smaller distances when chatting to strangers. And I was wondering if this phenomenon would show through comparing a place like Florida to a place like Maine or even Canada, which I know is another country, but within the same country, could that change based on location and the warmth of the state? And when reading this article, the first thing I immediately thought of was my mom's friend, who is the nicest person in the world, but I purposefully go out of my way to avoid her because she stands so close to me. And I don't know that she's someone that she's more of an acquaintance, so she's not a stranger, but she's not someone that I'm super friendly with, I guess. And so that would be kind of where my first thought goes to when I'm reading this article. But she's not from Florida, she's from North Carolina, so maybe that's normal in North Carolina. I don't really know. Thank you. In regards to the contact hypothesis article, Gordon Dell W.L. Port created the contact hypothesis, and reading directly from the article, it states that if one has the opportunity to communicate with others, they are better able to understand and appreciate different points of view involving their ways of life. As a result of new appreciation and understanding, prejudice should discriminate. And so, kind of in summary of that, is saying that if you spend more time with someone from maybe a group that you don't know too much about, then you're gonna kind of accept them more as a friend than you would if you just ignored them. There's more of a just a mutual relationship, if not a hate relationship. But some things that's needed in order to accomplish this is equal status, common goals, intergroup cooperation, support of authorities, laws or custom, and personal interaction. The best suggestion or best example that I can think of this is really like if you go into an escape room, especially with a ton of friends or people you don't really know, you have to treat everyone equally because everyone has different strengths and you don't want to make any mad because you don't know when you're going to need to use those strengths. You have a common goal of getting out. You need intergroup cooperation for some of the, I guess, puzzles that need to be completed. Sometimes everyone has to be involved. Um, Obviously, typically there's some sort of order that comes about when you're in an escape room, and also personal interaction because if you just went in and didn't talk to anyone, tried to do it on your own, most likely you're not going to escape. So that's my opinion on the contact hypothesis. So for the crossing border article, it really talks about this kind of experimentation put on by Wickline. And she basically split students up into small groups and they were asked to interact with someone from a different country. And really, what they found is that uh, in these small groups, they had a hard time interacting, so much so that they needed to intervene and give scripts for conversations so that the individuals actually knew kind of what to talk about, because if not, they weren't really talking to each other, or it just was like not really learning about a culture. It just was kind of useless information. However, they did notice that when they put these two groups together, they took them to a play, and then they kind of did an American potluck where the Asian, I guess, students also cooked and kind of did their thing as well and kind of shared the different foods. And they kind of found that this was a better way and seemed like a better bonding for the kids. One conclusion that she draws is that it might have been because they felt more comfortable. There were more people who were similar to them. The only issue when they did get into this big group is they kind of split into their in groups and out groups, which is we see naturally occurring in society all the time. Um, One thing that I noted as far as one thing that could have led to kind of this separation, or the American kids were saying that the Asian kids weren't asking as many questions, is that in some cultures it's rude to ask questions or they're not quite as open as Americans. I feel like Americans were very open about like our political beliefs, our religion, like our family problems, anything like Americans don't really have much of a filter, which can be a good or a bad thing. And so I'm not totally super educated on the Asian culture, but they might not talk about political beliefs quite as much, especially because they don't have a democracy. I don't think they have a democracy. Um, so that was one thing that I noted. The other thing I also noted was I'm wondering how this experiment would look if we sent it overseas to the Asian students, their home country, if they would be more comfortable there. Because in general, the plays that they would be going to would have primarily an Asian population compared to in America. They went to Fiddler on the Roof. You primarily have your white, not normal Americans, but your white Americans that are the majority of population. So I'm just wondering, would the Asian uh, students be more willing to talk or feel more comfortable if this occurred in their country? And I'm sure there are replications of an experiment very similar to this in other countries. And so those were my comments on the Crossing Borders program. I actually think it's kind of a cool program, and I'm excited to do it within the class and see what I gain from it, because this talks about how a lot of American students want to talk to people from other cultures but weren't quite sure how to start doing that. And I feel like in some ways I'm kind of in that group because I think it would be cool. I've just never pursued it because I don't really have an outlet to do that, and so I'm excited to try it.